Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, either listening or watching to this. Super excited for this conversation with Giovanni Marsico, a friend, a mentor, a coach. I've known Gio and I have known each other for multiple decades. We won't say the year because it might be older than some
You
of
can
some
say
of
the
the
year.
listeners, but since 1992, and Gio, his in high school was I was his little brother. And ever since then, he has effectively acted as a big brother to me. And I think Gio, in the criminal world, we're both Italian, so maybe we'll go down the mafia road. But people have a rap sheet of all the crazy things that they've done. Well, Gio's not a criminal, but he's a serial entrepreneur in the sense of his rap sheet of accomplishments, tens of thousands of people at events. They're not, I don't even want to call them events because that not even do it justice, their experiences, but even that is not enough. But we'll talk a little bit about that. But two-time Emmy Award winner, you've got to see the two films. I mean, they'll bring tears to your eyes, very resonant, emotional level. The events are incredible. Gio quite literally lives around superheroes, and we'll talk a little bit about the circle of people that you have, and then I've been blessed to be exposed to as well. So, I mean, I'll put all your accolades in there, but it'll take 30 minutes just to read through your rap sheet in the entrepreneur world. So thank you so much. I know time is our most precious resource, and I appreciate you as a friend, as a pseudo older brother from another mother, and then for all that you do for entrepreneurs of all sizes, quite literally around the world now. So thank you.
I am very honored to be here.
Yeah,
And you are
thanks.
one of my, I was going to say oldest friends. It's the wrong word. Longest lasting.
Longest lasting, yeah, exactly.
Since,
Yeah,
and you've attended more of my events than anyone because we started in 1994.
yeah, that's right. And back in the days when affiliate marketing wasn't even a thing and you were doing it. So maybe we'll go down some of those rabbit holes because I met him through you, Alex Sharfin. There's people in this world that are entrepreneurs. They see the future and then they bring it back, and that's kind of what you do, Ashley, in terms of affiliate marketing. You did that in 1994,
Yeah.
and we'll talk about that in a second. And well, actually, maybe let's talk about that. So, for everyone, if you're listening to this, make sure you go back on the YouTube channel or sit down. There's going to be some gold nuggets. We'll talk about identity engineering, and some things that Gio has taught me over the years. But first, we'll start with this affiliate marketing thing. Can you explain that?
Yeah.
Back to 1994.
I still marvel at the idea of how did we do what we did. When I was 16 years old, when I actually met you when I was 16 years old, and you were
Yep.
14 at the time, in
Yep.
high school, same like Goldie Archangel. Uh, and we were going to these teenage dance parties in Toronto where we grew up. And for some reason, I thought I was crazy enough to think, well, I DJ, I know how to do that, and I can throw a party like this. So at the time with my best friend in high school, Steve, we said, let's throw a party. And our first event, so I was 17, the year was 1994. Our first event had 1,000 attendees, and you were there.
Yep.
The way we did this was through our network of friends. And one of the blessings of our high school was that it was a private school where kids came from all over the city to attend, which means we all had friends back home in our neighborhoods at different high schools. So we assembled a team of uh, connectors like you who came from different areas, and we said, listen, if you invite friends to come to our event, I can't remember what we did of like maybe a dollar a person you show like it was I don't know, $10 a ticket, and then we'll
Yeah.
give you a dollar each or some strange low number.
Yeah.
Uh,
I remember it vividly because depending how long you were around, because you evolved the model.
yeah.
At one point, I was getting $5 attendee, so that was $5 in the mid '90s. That was good money. I mean,
You were a
I mean,
super affiliate.
yeah, I was like,
But yeah,
well, it's exciting. You had tiered structure, so
and keep in mind, so it started with 1,000 people at the first event, and then we had some hits and some giant failures. But by 1996, we were doing 3 to 5,000 people a week at Shock nightclub, if you remember that, using the same model. And again, from if you're listening to this or watching this, this is pre-internet, pre-social media, pre all the things people would use now for marketing and promotion, and it was all word of mouth. Um, and what I love about this is that everything I learned to do when I was 16, I am still doing today at 48. We produce events with thousands of attendees, and we don't do Facebook ads. We don't do any kind of digital advertising. It's still the exact same model that I was using when I was 16, right? And I
Yeah.
love it because when there's the intentionality of who's being invited based off of relationship and based off of alignment of values and who we are as a community, you fill the room with the right energy. And it's not about just getting butts and seats for an event or whatever kind of business it is. It's about relationship, and it's about community, and it's about um, all of us marching in the right direction, in the same direction, because we have shared values, same shared beliefs, and we all want you be better so we can do better and help a lot more people. Um, but I love I love that you're the my social proof because you were
Yeah.
there right at the beginning. Um,
Yes.
Actually, I have a funny story from that first event, which I don't know if you know. So the venue we used was called Luna Ballroom. It was an Italian banquet
Yeah.
hall, and it was our first event. And we showed up at around 3 p.m., where the event started at 8 p.m. And when we showed up, our AV company that we hired to do sound and lighting and speakers and DJ equipment and stuff, they were setting out tables all over the venue, like so if you can imagine
Oh yeah.
a wedding, you'd sit at round tables, and we're like, "What are you guys doing?" And they're like, "Well, it's your first event, and wink, wink, it's probably going to be empty because it's your first time. So we thought it'd be strategic to fill the room with tables so it doesn't look as empty." And we're like, "Guys, get these tables out of here." We actually got into a fight with our AV company. Um,
Yeah.
and at 5 p.m., people started showing up, and the AV guys were like, "What's happening?" And we said, "Get rid of these tables." And like, "Oh my God, you're right." But by 6:30, we had I don't know, 500 or 600 people outside, and then by doors opening, we had 1,000 people, and it was the coolest sight to see all these cars driving down the street. Like we blocked traffic. It was nuts.
It, I yeah, I've heard the story. I wasn't there because I said starting at 8, I was working till 5. And I said, well, you know what? I'll go right away. I'll see what help they need. So I said, I'll show up early, an hour and a half. I didn't know what to expect other than I handed out hundreds of cards that had my, initials on it with so you guys can track, okay, Davide
Yeah.
Nelson, Jim, whoever was giving cards out. And I couldn't freaking get in. Right. It took me like 45 minutes to go a kilometer because of all the cars. And I thought an accident happened. I thought some crime scene happened. I didn't know what happened. I was like, holy smoke, this was crazy. And I actually remember being let in as one of the promoters a little bit earlier. I didn't know that story. And I think the first time you actually told it was a couple of months. It's the only second time I heard it. So, but I remember that night, which is kind of crazy. And I think whether you're building a brand whether you're a solopreneur or you're an entrepreneur or an executive, let's say like myself, or both, kind of both, if you will, the importance of surrounding yourself with community. Because if you're building a brand, it is about movement to a community. And somebody say, "Oh, that's corny" or whatever, and no, it's not. There's a lot of science and benefits behind it. Or whether you're an entrepreneur or you're an executive of, let's say, a Fortune 500, there are also groups and communities for those people. And I think the importance of values, how do you see the world? Um, you're like you call them cheat codes, right? It's from the old Nintendo days, but I never clued in cheat codes on games to cheat codes on life, and I'll let you explain that in a second. But I wanted to hammer home the important to the audience is whatever you're doing, whether you're an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur, which means you're sort of an innovator within a company or you're building your own thing, I believe the most success comes from community because otherwise we're inherently lonely
Right.
and you're going to cross a lot of the same challenges and someone else has solved it before. Someone else is 2 steps ahead of you on that path. And so with that, I'll ask you if you can explain, the whole sort of cheat code mindset and maybe how to find them and how to surround yourself around those sorts of folks and what you do to give people like myself cheat codes.
Well, I let me address the community topic first. We are a communal species. We need each other to thrive. And if you go back in time, most cities, even or towns, were created and built around a place of worship. What,
True.
no matter what the religion is, and that was like the center of the town. And then every week, no matter what the religion is, or maybe multiple times a week, people would go, and that was the community. And um, I know it's a weird analogy, but when we were throwing events back in the day, and the premise, by the way, of our parties was that it was a time of rave culture, and I wanted to do a thing where kids could show up, kids meaning like 16 to 20-year olds could show up, where there was no drugs, no alcohol, nothing to be in the
Nothing
right,
nefarious.
because rave culture was big with on the drug side, and
True.
nightclub culture was big on the alcohol side, and I wanted a place for kids to be safe, and we kept doing that, but it felt like church. It was the
Hmm.
energy of we're all here, um, with the common beliefs, we're all here with common values, and even today it still has that same kind of energy, um, because we have alignment and we grow together. And growth happens better in community. Healing even happens better in community. And we're not meant to be alone. And
True.
with the pandemic and everything that happened in those years, we were almost forced to separate and forced into isolation. And I actually think we're not over all of the psychological damage that created. Like
I agree.
we need each other. And now to the sort of cheat codes. When I started this entrepreneurial brand, like it started with Archangel, and now we're launching a second one called Destiny. But we started Archangel in 2014, producing events for entrepreneurs like us. Uh, and I knew I wanted to start with community first. So it wasn't that I had a mousetrap or like a, in the business world, people say find a problem you want to solve, and then find people who want to have that problem solved. And I never felt like I solved the problem other than maybe the need for community. But I started with community first, and then figured how can I serve this community. And in
Yes.
2014, when we launched, I was and in the 1 or 2 years before that, I was doing a lot of research on community building. And one of the books that changed my life was Seth Godin's book called Tribes. Um, and then Seth is my favorite author, and we've had him speak at our events a few times, and he's
Yes.
one of the best marketing authors in the world, if not the best. Um, and in that book, he'll use the phrase, people like us do things like this. And his whole point is it's not about building community. The community already exists. They're just not connected. So as a leader like me and you, what we can do is declare that we are connecting the people together who need to be connected, right? Like one of our friends is Gareb Shamus, who's the founder of Comic Con. Um, and I love Gareb. I grew up loving comic books and superheroes, and now he's one of my
Mm.
closest friends, and that's a weird, cool, fun thing. But if you think of what he created, because when we were in high school, it was not cool to like superheroes.
No, it's not cool.
It
You
was the
sort of
opposite. You were like shunned and
that.
made fun of, and you
Yeah.
were even the words geek and nerd were not cool. Like now it's cool. Back then, no.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I totally remember.
so we were reading in secret. So if you were like me and you loved superheroes, you didn't tell people. And then he comes along and creates an experience for people like us to gather and connect. And then it felt like, oh, I found my tribe. I feel like I belong. I found my home, my family, my community. Um, all of us can do that, especially in this digital world we're in, where connectivity is so much easier. Um, there are people out there waiting for you to connect them. And no matter what business you are in, people come to you for a solution or an outcome or to solve a puzzle or a problem or whatever it is, but they will stay forever if you connect them to other people like them.
I think there's an emotional piece, and it's funny, I asked about can dogs feel love yesterday on ChatGPT because I was playing with Dexter, and the reason why that comes up, because he's my dog. And then reason that comes up because I think when we think about psychologically what happens with their brain when they bond with the person, both of us, when there's human connection, you release serotonin. When you have serotonin release, you're happy, right? And the brain works its programming when you're in a heightened emotional state, that's positive or negative. So I don't, sometimes, some of my greatest learnings have come is when I've been in a supercharged state, driven by that energy, like at your event. I was telling you about a transformation shift that happened in my mindset, both at your 2016 event and then which was sort of phase one to change some of the things I was doing. And phase two with Brendan Bouchard's speech, who's a world #1 high performance coach at your event in 2017, before he was probably as big as he is today. But I think to your point, the power of community is, yeah, we're a communal species. When there's heart to heart connection, literally in the same room, our bodies do things physiologically that put us in a state of awareness, putting us in an improved state with an ability to learn and ability to program. That's why I tend to remember, at least for me, a lot of people I speak to, that's when they have the greatest shifts. And so if you can start creating habits coming out of those events, that's what people have to work on, right? Like you can get the charge and the learning, but if you don't do anything with it, that's where habits come in. And I think maybe that'll be the next topic, identity engineering, and how do you take a learning and actually apply it? Because otherwise you get all this energy and then you go back to your old habits 2 weeks later. But yeah, no, I totally agree that the importance of those events, at least for me, and I think from a mindset, you get charged, your brain is literally in a better place to receive it. And then you stay for that charge and you stay for that because those people give you those cheat codes, and then you go and implement them and you learn something new. And you don't need 100 things, you just need one thing, and that could change the trajectory of everything in your life, right? So
Yeah, I love to. So if someone hasn't been to one of our events, like the big ones are now called Destiny Fest, and we designed them in a very unique way, where I'll bring in so basically some of the best speakers and experts in the world on different topics. But when we design an event, I sit down and think of writing a story as if we were writing the script of a movie, because we also produce films, and the attendee is the audience of the film, right? We want to take people on a journey during the experience, and then every speaker is almost like a chapter of the story, where we want to have some kind of paradigm shift happen in the room for everybody to think differently and open up possibility to what a different kind of future, and then leaving feeling transformed, but then taking action on what they learned. And it's going to be different for everybody. That's why we'd like to have 20, 30 different people on stage, because everyone needs something different. Um,
sure.
but it's an amazing transformation. And then like we've been doing events since 2014, and I've lost count of how many people have said something like, "You've changed my life," because of an event they attended, which to me is my currency. And you know this, but it's awesome to make money from events or from any kind of business. But for people in our world, it's usually not the primary motivation. It's the tool that fuels the mission, but it's not the mission itself. And
Mhm.
I've always wanted to find a different currency that resonated and had meaning, fulfillment for me. And that currency is stories. I want to collect 1 million stories of transformation, and that would make me a quote unquote millionaire in my world. Right?
Mhm.
And that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, I remember I think it was 2 years ago when you sort of, that's always been your goal, but you sort of actually coined one of your events millionaire.
Right.
Um, and I forgot to get it because I could maybe show on the video here, but I have my badges. Did I send you a picture of all the badges that I have or
No,
no?
no.
Okay, I'll send it because I've kept my badges. So it's pretty cool because I have the one from 27, ever since 2017 and onward. So as you know, I collected those things because they have impacted me, and each person there um has given me something. Like before we started the call, this book is coming out, and you can't see this right now, but it's wait till it comes in end of July. It's called The Science of Scaling by Dr. Benjamin Hardy. I've heard some of his conversations before, complete next level, right? And so what he presented at your event in Austin a couple weeks ago was transformative. Like I could have left right after he presented. That's what I said. How's it going so far? I said I could leave right now and be done. Like I just go on a plane, go home, and like I'm good. Like I just got what I needed. And we don't know when that'll happen at you at any one of these events, but like there's going to be, 1 to 2 people that you can say, okay, I'm done. Like
Yeah.
I heard what I need to hear, and I do see how you put that together. It's really important. Can you talk a little bit about, you and I spent the day with a few others where we talked about sort of the concept of personalities and permanent type
Yeah.
concepts
Yeah.
around identity engineering. Can you kind of walk us through a little bit of that framework? I think that would be important for the audience because after Geo explains this, you will see that that is actually important for all of us to do, no matter where we are in life and what stage. And so there's two speakers, and we'll talk about that, and then maybe the whole alter ego thing, because Todd Herman was another one of your speakers that for me was transformative. But we'll park that for now and kind of just focus on this sort of what is this concept of a future self is, what is it, and why is it important?
Well, uh, I love this because you mentioned Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Uh, he wrote the book on this topic. It's called Personality Isn't Permanent. And when he came to Austin a couple of weeks ago for our event, and he showed up, he brought his 17-year-old son to the event, which was really cool. And I told his son, just so you know, and I want to say this in front of um, your dad changed my life. And people come to me a lot and say that phrase, which I'll never take for granted, and it means everything to me. But it's actually also cool when I get to say it to somebody else. And when I Ben's been a friend for 10 years, and I knew him before he wrote his first book, and I think it's like 10 or something now. But
Mhm.
uh, his when Personality Isn't Permanent came out, he's essentially a doctor that researches identity, personality, future self, um, and discovered that what most people believe about personality is wrong. And because we think personality is fixed, right? How many times have you heard someone say something like, "That's just the way I am"? And we
Yeah,
assume, and this is what
countless.
there's a lot of these assumptions or beliefs that are wrong, but we assume that once we become an adult, it's who we are becomes permanent and there's no change, and we get stuck where identity feels like an addiction almost, or a comfort zone that we don't want to leave because it feels safe and it's what we know. Uh, However, not only is it changeable um, and not fixed, but we have way more control over that change than we think. It's like if your life was a movie, you're not just the main character, you're also the director, the producer, the screenwriter, the set designer. You play a lot of roles. And
Yes.
I like to think of it as personality traits being skills you can acquire instead of things that you're born with. And I've proven it to myself. Like, uh, well, you've known me my whole life. There was a point in my life where I was extremely anxious and had a lot of depression and almost like uncontrollable emotion. And I taught myself how to have nervous system regulation. And well, you've been around me at my events. Am I ever anxious? It's like it's so, and even my friends who produce events, uh,
No.
like you're weird because I'll, we'll have 3,000 people at our event and I'm completely calm and I'm
Yeah.
always that way. And it's not, I wasn't born that way. I trained it as a skill. And um, same with things like self-confidence people say I'm an introvert. That's another one that I find
Right.
interesting.
Yeah.
Introversion, extroversion. And I actually think you stay stuck in that identity or the label and then not realizing you can actually acquire traits from the other side of it. Like
Uh,
one of my closest friends is a guy named Jim Quick that you know.
Yeah.
If you see Jim on stage, you would say, "Oh, he's an extrovert," and then you see him off stage, and he's the exact opposite. Like
Exact opposite. Yeah.
it's kind of interesting. We all can do these things, right? And that's part. You mentioned Todd Herman and alter ego. Um, what he teaches. So he wrote a book called The Alter Ego Effect, and Todd's worked with some of the top athletes in the
Yep.
world, like Kobe Bryant, and his whole thing is when you're in the field of play, let's say as an athlete, but it could be in anything in life. When you step onto the court or the field or the ice, you can adopt an alter ego that's different than you based on what's required in that
in the
environment,
moment.
right? But and Kobe Bryant had Black Mamba, is what he called
The Mamba.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, and Beyonce has Sasha Fierce as her alter ego, right? It's like when she's on stage, she's almost a different person because that's what you need to be on stage. But you don't want to have Black Mamba come home to your kids. Uh, and
correct.
for Todd, he's similar where he has an alter ego, let's say when he's on stage speaking, but then his alter ego at home is Mr. Rogers, I think. Well, I don't want to
It's with the
misquote him, but
Rogers. He puts on an elastic because he had fake glasses when he's a
yeah,
speaker, and then he puts on this kitty band, and he's like, okay, super dad now, and I think
right.
it's Mr. Rogers, you're right? Yeah,
Yeah, and I don't think some people might think of this as not being real in quotes or not being authentic, but that's the fallacy because we're all always different. We're all always changing, and the word I've been obsessed with lately is the word character. So
mhm.
and I'll play with me for a second. If I said someone we know, Jim Quick is a person of character, how would you define the word?
I think character. Yeah, how I would define the word.
Yeah.
I would define character as the way that they behave in the world, that they interact with me.
Yeah,
Right?
like you might think of like integrity or
Integrity, honest.
authenticity or those kinds of.
Yeah,
But then if I said Robert Downey Jr. plays the character of Iron Man, it would be almost it's almost like it's fake or not real. And
right.
yet to me it's kind of the same. Like we're always a character. We're actually the main character in our story, but we don't act like the main. We act like we're an extra.
Yeah, like an extra.
But
Yeah,
but I like why not see life as the most epic story? If you were going to um, the day after we pass away, if someone was going to write a biography about your life or even make a movie about you, why not make it a freaking awesome movie? And
yeah.
and and I don't mean you have to do Elon Musk level stuff. I just mean what would it look like for you to feel like the story was awesome?
That are worth telling, right?
Yeah.
And everyone has a story, and this what Lisa Nichol talks about. She's on your stage. Was everyone has a story to tell, right? Like we all have a life, and I agree with you that sometimes in the past I would have thought the concept of a future self, which maybe I'll probe a little deeper into that, but this whole alter ego future self is being artificial. But in fact, I now know that it is quite the opposite. It's actually being more congruent with who you are, with where you want to be, based on what comes from inside rather than what society is telling us to do, because it's really easy to fall into the trap. Because I don't know who said this. Maybe it was Alex Hormozy, but you get to keep what you fight for.
Right.
Right. So if you say, I suck at math, I'm an introvert, I'm no good at this, your brain, there's a book called The Magic of Thinking Big. I'm sure you've read it. And your brain starts setting the stage for whatever you believe. So if you believe you're not good enough to sell this house, or if you believe you're not good enough for whatever, you automatically put the premise, and our brains are solution oriented. They will go, the subconscious will start finding ways to affirm what you just said consciously. And so that's the challenge as well. I'm an introvert. Well, it will now seek all evidence of why you might be an
Right.
introvert. And all of us, there's no either or. And we're on the spectrum of completely introverted, completely extroverted. Because there's times where I would be a hard introvert. I'm like, leave me alone. I gotta be in my thoughts. I'm going fishing by myself, standing in the river. Like, I don't want any human being near me. And
Yeah.
then there's other times where I'm in the middle of it all, jumping around, throwing the party, an extreme extrovert. So what am I? Am I an extreme extrovert or am I an extreme introvert? I am what I need to be in the moment, right? Based on where I think I want to be. And I think that's what I like, what I learned from you. And I think you've had multiple teachers to kind of get you there. But the concept of the future self is, who do you want to be in the future? What does that look like? And what does this person do? And because it's helped me say, so my future person's name is Maximus. Max, what would Max do? right?
Right.
And yours is Johnny Angel you talked about. It's like I'm confronted with a situation, and what you want to do say. And I think that's how we can break free of some oh, you should do this or you should do that or you shouldn't or whatever. I mean, our life is for us to leave in the most positive way and impact people in an epic way along the path. And so for me, that whole concept of future self and identity engineering has been important. And I never knew it, but I did it always throughout my life. And started with you, and you were at the strategic coach, kind of reinforced the whole. Remember being in the basement, we had the binders with sort of the goal setting and
Right.
it's sort of saying, well, what are my goals or what am I trying to accomplish? And when you put them out there and then all of a sudden you start doing consistent action towards it, somehow it starts to happen. Funny how that works, isn't it? And there's a lot of science behind it, right? So,
Well, I have a great simple way for people to think about this to start. And it's with labels. So, um, like right now, you might wear the label CEO. You also have the label father. That in the past, you didn't have those labels. So, if your
very
identity's
true.
already shifted, whether like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Actually, I've never
Uh,
heard you say it that way. That's actually,
and what is a future label someone aspires to, but what if they apply it today? So, um, let's say someone has trouble with eating or getting in shape. I would suggest, and this is actually what I'm doing myself, so I'll just say it for myself, but it's an invitation. Uh, my label is athlete. So I am an athlete. And I don't look like one right now in the same way that I might in the future, but I am an athlete today, which means when it's time to make a decision about what to eat, how to train, how to sleep, how to behave, I'm thinking like an athlete. What would an athlete do? Right. And then
mhm.
I saw an amazing, there's a Hollywood director I love, Robert Rodriguez. And he's been interviewed a bunch of times lately. Um, and one of the stories he told was how he loves mentoring other like young filmmakers. And the phrase he hates is aspiring filmmaker. And he's like, you're not aspiring. If you're aspiring anything, that means you're not the thing. So he said, get rid of the word aspiring. Even if you haven't made a movie yet, you are a filmmaker. And how does that change the energy of how you act, what you do, right? And even though you haven't made a movie yet, um,
That's
which
what you do.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's what you do, who you are, and how you behave, and your behaviors change, and your personality changes because of that. Um, so to me,
Mm.
it's what is the future label that you could adopt right now? And if there's something about your life you don't like, what is the opposite label? Like for example, athlete. And how will that change your behavior to become the label? We all
Yeah.
have experience with this because of school or if you ask your kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? That's a label. They may not have a good
Yeah.
answer yet. And I don't know if we had good answers when we were that age. I might have said DJ. I don't know. But
Yes.
I am a DJ. I'm a musician. And you mentioned earlier, this is I'm an Emmy award winning film producer. That was not on my even,
Not on your list.
it was on
Yeah,
my,
before.
it was on my like too good to be true dream list when I was a kid. But like that wasn't even in the realm of possibility. It was just like, oh yeah, one day I'll make movies. Haha. And
Yeah.
now I make movies. So but we could all do this, even if it feels like science fiction, um, because the end goal doesn't matter. It's who you become along the journey. And if you adopt better habits, isn't that the win anyways? Like I may never win a gymnastics competition, but if I have amazing health habits, that means when I'm 70 and 80 years old, I'm still going to be playing tennis. I'm still going to be active. I'll be in shape. I could probably live an extra 10 years, which is way more important than winning a fitness competition or something.
Yeah. That's 100% true, actually. I've never heard you use and I've been
I
around
actually
you
never, by the
thousands
way,
of hours.
I've never have used this. You're the first person I'm telling this to. So
Yeah, this whole label concept. Um, yeah, like I said, I've been around you for thousands of hours at this point, so this is just kind of cool. You always learn something.
This is
Um,
it's breaking. You're the literally this is the first time I've had this conversation about the label thing.
yeah.
I've thought about it and I've been trying to figure out how to talk about it. And thank you for bringing it out of me. So I'll need this recording later.
Yeah, I will send it. No, I think that's really powerful because I can almost, I felt a tingle in my body, if you will, because it's like at one point I was not a homeowner. At one point I was not an
Right.
investor. At one point I was not a manager, not a director, not a VP, not a CEO, not a founder, like all these things. And so it's not about collecting labels, but it's about what labels do you want? What behaviors can you make to get there? And if I never got to where I got to today, I'm just so fortunate. But I think the journey would have been fun because I was still doing things that I like, right? And so I like what you said because you don't need to win, but if that's what you are, then you do the behaviors of that
Right.
thing. And that's, I mean, and also this is where you become inauthentic. If you just chase the label for the sake of the label, but you're doing things that are inauthentic to what you really are, that should be the trigger where you say,
Right.
hold on a second, I'm actually chasing the wrong label. So I think that's a great advice because I can come up with a wall of labels that I am and labels that I don't want to be or things that I will not be. Like I'm actually a hockey player. I still play hockey to this day and I love it. I'm not in the NHL, but there could be an asteroid hitting Earth. I won't care. I'm on the ice. Let me just finish my game at least because I like it is my happy zone. And so
Right.
to your point, you're an athlete. I'm a hockey player, or whatever things that we enjoy, but that is congruent with who we are. Yeah, I love that. I'm pretty sure you're going to be talking about that in the next council meeting and this whole
I
concept
will.
of labels that you flesh it out. So I think that's really powerful. I think you know, we got just a few minutes left, and before I ask you for two or three top advice, one of the things that was helpful for me many years ago when you did the Archangel Academy, I think it was 2015 or that initial pilot, was the whole concept of a calendar audit. I think that's something that people don't. Every time I share the concept with someone, they're like, "What do you mean I got to do this?" Can you kind of explain that? Because I do think that is a productivity tool for anybody, no matter who you are. Because when everyone says they have no time, again, you're
Right.
fighting for that quote unquote label. You can have 100 billion in your account or nothing. I've seen people that don't have money that have got real big smiles on their face in Cuba because they're doing things with their time that they like. Can you kind of talk about? I don't remember what you called. I think it's the calendar code or something you called it. But I
Well,
remember
I
the exercise.
um, first learned it more from an entrepreneurial lens or through an entrepreneurial lens from Alex Sharfin about auditing your what do you call it? A time audit, essentially
Time
to
audit.
figure
Yeah,
out
Alex,
where
time audit.
yeah, so tracking for 2 weeks every 15 minutes what you're doing, which is it's brutal but very effective because then you start to figure out which activities are in my zone of genius, which things bring me energy, which things drain my energy. And as a uh, business person or leader, part of the exercise is to figure out how am I currently spending my time, what can be delegated, what can be stopped doing altogether, what should or where could I put more energy into which activities. And it's a game changer for productivity, but also for life design. Um, as an example, the first time my wife and I did this, we're like, why are we spending hours loading the dishwasher and doing laundry? And what if we had someone come in? And part of the equation is as a business owner or whatever, whoever you are, what is your time worth with respect to if you think of it as a salary, and then you are paying an employee, aka yourself, whatever your hourly wage is to empty the dishwasher. So what if you delegated that to someone else at 15 or $20 an hour, which is probably less than what your time is worth.
With your time.
But
Yeah.
now you're freed up an hour to do more higher level activities that actually bring in more revenue or more income or whatever it is. So it's like an amazing way to figure out your time. Um, uh, Dan Martell actually talks about this. He has a book called Buy Back Your Time, which is
Buy back your time.
on this
I
on
have
this
that.
topic too. I actually think anyone could audit their time and their credit card statements. It's like if your time and your purchases aren't aligned with who you want to become, that's a great place to start because the two common it's like I don't have time and I don't have money. Well, cool. Where's your time going? Where's your money going? And maybe
Right.
that's where you can start shifting based on the labels, right? So, this is all based on values and beliefs and um, dreams and goals, and uh, we all have more power over these things than we think.
I think the key thing that you said there that kind of blends those two concepts together is the essence of life design, right? And what I like about the time audit and then your pieces is it energizing. So for me, for example, I'll talk about when I did my audit, I like cutting the grass. You know, it's not the highest revenue activity, but when I cut the grass, I put my pods pads in
Right, right, right.
and I listen to something. So for me, that's like my feed time, right? So, but for someone else, there's lots of people I know that do not like podcasts. They'd rather just read a book. I like it all, but you know, so for them, that might not be their time. So for someone, for example, so what we're not saying here, audience, is loading dishwasher is good or bad. It just depends on what
Right.
you like. Some people love the Tetris challenge of it. Some people just don't want to do it. And so I think it's about life design. What are your labels you're chasing? What gives you joy? Because I know the initial time study is about sort of where you're tracking your time. And then there's the Tim Ferriss automate, eliminate, delegate. But then the nuance that you added that I saw different was this energy. It just
Right.
give you energy, or is it just is it a vampire
I have a,
activity? That's gonna be
I have a
different
great
for all of us.
example. Like, I love grocery shopping. For most
Yeah,
people, that's probably a thing they would delegate, or you could even go on
yeah.
whatever, Uber Eats or some kind of online service and get groceries delivered. There's something about walking around a grocery store that it's like a Zen thing for me. It's like a nervous system reset, and I actually miss. You're gonna love this. I miss going to Blockbuster. Like, that was another thing for me, which
Yeah,
we don't have anymore. Like,
I
movie
missed Blockbuster too.
video rental places. I miss that experience. But what I
Sure.
still every week, I think you know this, I'll go to a movie theater by myself usually and watch a movie that comes out, because it's also part of my um, escapism and creative process. And I love seeing stories. I'm actually, like, I'm excited about the movies are getting better and better. Finally, there was a weird period of
It's
not so,
weird. We're in a lull. They seem to be
yeah.
coming back. Yeah, you're right. So I guess we'll wrap up in closing. We're at the top. Thank you for talking about cheat code, the importance of community and transformation, identity shift. I think the whole calendar code and labels example and life design, I think those are critical topics. And you can have the life that you want, and don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. And I think today we talked about some of those tools, so that's amazing. And we ran out of time today, but one with Geo studies really well is the hero journey. And I know that's what you do at your events. That's how you study events. And that'll be a podcast for another time, and Google it, and there's all kinds of information. But also another powerful concept by how we express ourselves in the world through our solutions and entertainment. So any closing words or key thoughts you want to leave with the audience?
You are the main character of your story, and you get to write the script more than you think. If you treat your current identity as a comfort zone, whether it's serving you or not, and look for the places where it's not serving you, and see that as a clue for growth, because growth happens outside your comfort zone, and growth can feel scary, but it's the trade-off. You need courage to get into that place, but then you become
Sure.
the person you want to become. And the cheat code is community. I like to say,
Yeah.
find a group of people who believe your new story more than your old one. And it
Powerful.
creates a faster transformation.
Can't end off on a better way. Find those who believe in your story. Surround yourself, and yeah, that's a whole other episode podcast. So, Gio, thank you for your time, your friendship, your guidance, and everything that you do for entrepreneurs, founders, and executives like myself across the world. You've got people in the UK, Australia, just name the country, and there's somebody in the group, and I know I have met them all, the Simon Bones of the world, and yeah, you can go on. So, thanks for everything that you do. Really appreciate your time and your contribution to making the world a little better place than it was after you found it. So thanks for all that you do.
Thank you.